I don't actually have much planned. Just the basics. So, all right, if you want to follow along, you can. I'm just gonna slide through here. I've got chat open so I can answer the chat if you have questions, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna show you how to use Visual Studio Code. So that's what I use. And your stuff will look a little bit like this. You'll have everything, all your contents over here to the left and whatnot here. This is Cube Station. We can switch to Omu Station as well. It's basically the same thing. How you're going to fork stuff. So how you're going to make your fork from the main repository. It'll look something like this. It'll say forked from here. How you can sync your upstream if you want to do it that way. How you clone it so you can make your own remote. And I had something opened over here already. You can update and go from there. And basically everything that's relatively simple and what you should be doing. Also, our submodule updated or something. But there we go. And it'll tell you your submodule, resources, stuff like that, which you can look at. Anyway, there from the top, you're going to want to go to Visual Studio Code, and you're going to want to download it. Pretty straightforward there. And you'll take it and you'll run it. Put it wherever you want. And download that. That'll be the first thing you want to do. Then you'll want to go to Python and download that. Everybody generally uses the run user.py, which is what you see over here. And run this.py, which is Python execution script. Though if you look at this, you can actually see that the program is pretty simple. All it does is it forces you to update your submodule. And not really something that you particularly need to do, but it's good to download it. You can go here, go to downloads, download 3.13.7, or whichever one you want to do. It needs at least 3.5. Really, it doesn't matter as long as it's above that. It's going to execute all the same. And then the last thing you're going to want to download that isn't something you need, or that isn't something that's going to be installed through other means, is Git Bash. This you need to do because you're going to be using Git. GitHub is just a service for Git, a separate entity. In fact, such cases exist. There's GitLab. There's I'm gonna say there's another. I think it's Git Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff. All this is like making a main repository for sharing everything. So you'll just download this as well. And I'll just show. I know this doesn't wipe my stuff out, but I'll just show how it kind of generally works. So we'll close out of this. Once you have Visual Studio Code downloaded, you'll go from there. So let me go and you'll come over here and you'll install this, read your license, whatever you need. And then you can install everything through here. You want to use Visual Studio Code as its default editor. Because trust me, you do not want to use Vim. Vim is terrible. It is not good. It's hard to work with if you're already like not used to this. and then you can just let Git decide. Usually it's master on GitHub, it's main, but that's where complications arise there, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be forking from main anyway. And then you'll use your bundled SSH, use the OpenSSL library. You'll want to check it out Windows style, but you want to commit Unix style line endings. And you'll want to use your minimum TTY, so the default terminal. You can use Windows default terminal if you're used to that, but it doesn't really matter. For the most part, you're not going to be using any of this. You'll want to fast forward or merge instead of like rebase and stuff like that. You want this is the basic settings, so just keep it. You want to install Git Credential Manager. That's how you can link it so that any commits you do on your computer, when you push them to GitHub, will show that you're the one that did them. This is basically just for signing in. You'll want to enable file system caching. This is good for making sure everything's on the side. You can go through. It's a big performance boost, basically what you want. You can do symbolic links if you want to, but I don't really need them. And from there, you'll just install. And you'll run your Python. With Python, when you go to install it, you need to let me see if it shows up here. It doesn't show up here. You want to make sure that Python says run this as path. You need it to run as path. So you want to check mark that when you do it. When you go to install it. As for like everything there, that's basically your setup. So I'll give a second for everyone to be like, hey, we've got Visual Studio installed, and I want you to open Visual Studio and stuff like that first. So you'll want to open your Visual Studio code. You don't need to worry about what all this looks like and whatnot. What we're going to do first is get some extensions. So what you're going to want is you're going to want to get .NET install tool. And I'll go ahead and write these over in the chat real quick. Better comments. And the hell are all of these, bro? Oh, guys, look, GitHub Copilot. Dude, it wants us to get GitHub Copilot, man. NPM IntelliSense, bro. These are crazy. Anyway. Yeah, you guys could use JetRider if you wanted to, but I don't use JetRider because I use C++, and I'm also not familiar with half the stuff in JetRider. On top of that, like, it's also, doesn't really matter at the end of the day if you're YAML maxing. You'll want to get C#, obviously. And CMake is pretty good. CMake tools is also pretty good. These don't matter too much. I think these are good for syntax highlighting. Header config is pretty good. I don't remember if that one's for this space. I have to do a bunch of stuff. Then you want to, the real big ones that you're going to want are GitHub pull request, Git lens, and LSP. You can get Python if you want. You don't really need it, but it just lets you run Python stuff in here. You shouldn't be really looking at Python that much, but you can get all of the Python ones if you want. VS Code Fluent is another one, and then XML, XML tools, and YAML. These are pretty good for getting everything from the get-go. It just gives you a bunch of like syntax highlighting. So we can go to, I don't know, let's go to Soul Common. There you go. Go to Soul Common. Like one of the things that Richard did mention is like this tells you it's wrong. At the end of the day, though, like it's up for its personal flavor, whatever you want. We don't really care for the most part. Oh, it's highlighted in red, and then you look over it and it says, "Oh, this doesn't know what this problem is. It's an unresolved tag, etc." It doesn't matter. But if you get all of your YAML and you have that installed, when you open a file like this, it will have your syntax highlighting. So blue will be for your types and your parts of your YAML and your individual breakdowns and whatnot with that. And on top of that, like all your comments will be blue or green. I mean, the other reason that you want like better comments is because you can do stuff like, oh, to do, now this is orange, or you can do exclamation mark, needs fixing. I think there's a question mark, which like help. I don't remember what the question mark's for. All in all, though, that just depends on what you like. JetBrains is great, but it's also like the UX is kind of ass. Especially for people who don't know like anything about terminal editing and file management and Git, anything around that. But once you have something like this set up, you can go to OMU. I'm just going to use OMU as an example, because we're in the OMU station server. You're going to go to GitHub. You're going to go to the OMU station's GitHub page. And this is all assuming that you've already made a GitHub account. I'm not going to show you how to make a GitHub account. And you're going to go over to this handy machine over here, and you're going to click fork, and you're going to make a new fork. Now, I can't choose myself because that already exists, but that's not particularly important here. Once you create a fork, it'll bring you to a page similar to this. It will say your username / whatever you made the name of OMU Station as. You can change it if you want. It doesn't make any difference particularly, whatever you name it. It's just how it's going to show up. It's just the base LSP. I don't even remember if it's necessary for this. Like I said, I use Visual Studio Code for C++ management as well. I use it to compile programs for my Arduinos and my ESP32s. It's just this one. It's something. I don't even know if this is like necessary. You probably don't need this. I just downloaded it because I was using it for, I don't know, something. You probably don't need it. On top of that, it's all in, I think this is Portuguese. Yeah, it's probably not that big of a thing. It was recommended to me. I don't remember if it was recommended to me by somebody who was showing me some neat tricks for the ESP32 or in C++ code, or if it was recommended while I was editing. I will say one of the recommendeds is robust LSP. Oh yeah, I remember what it was. It's language server protocol. You probably do want it. Do not get robust LSP though. Some people it's like recommended by the workspace, but it's booty is what I was told. So whatever. Yeah, it's not as robust. Anyway, once you make your fork, this is where you're going to come over here and you're going to click code, and you're going to click this nice little copy symbol. And while you're in VS Code, you'll open it up. You won't have a terminal. You'll go up to the top and you'll click New Terminal. And from here, you'll click the little drop-down button. It'll be in CMD or whatever your computer defaults as. And you're going to click this drop-down arrow and you're going to click Git Bash. And you're going to open up a little Git Bash. It's going to look something like this, wherever you were at. And this is where, before you do anything else, I recommend you go and you go into your File Explorer. And if you have OneDrive, or you have Dropbox, or you have Google Drive, or you have anything that's actively recording what you're doing and sending your files to a database upstream, or a database in a server, or cloud server, or anything like that, you don't make a folder in that area. Like, this GitHub repos is not made in the same area as my OneDrive is. It is made outside of my OneDrive for the purpose of preventing anything from this repository from being uploaded to OneDrive. The reason for that is you end up in situations where you go to delete a folder, or you change a bunch of stuff, or you switch to a new branch and that branch is outdated, or you switch to a new branch and that branch is the most up-to-date, and a million files get touched at the same time, and then your online service that's sending files to your cloud server starts deleting a million files or uploading a million of them at the same time and touching all of them, and it just takes resources, and on top of that, it lags, and sometimes it doesn't let you delete a file that you need to, and then you go to run the game while you're testing your changes, and you get slammed face first into a bunch of errors and crashes because it just didn't delete file, or it had something that wasn't supposed to be there. All in all, though, you'll probably want to just go to like your user, create a folder. I named mine just GitHub repos. And from there, while you're in here, you'll click the handy dandy little Control-KO, which will open folder to somewhere else. Or you can go up in the top right and you can click open folder. And you're going to go to your GitHub repos. So let's just show this. Call it whatever you want to call it. We'll just go to GitHub. So we'll click here and we'll select this. You're going to end up in a page somewhat like this. You're gonna Copilot's probably going to pop up because Microsoft wants to shove anything it can down your throat. Speaking of, if you don't like Visual Studio, you can also get Visual Studio Codium. This is better. I suggest this. But like I said, it's really up to you, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day. JetBrains Rider is pretty good. I said writers, my bad. I'll show you this website too. And I'm trying to find where they show you the IDE. It has a bunch of stuff here. It can tell you it's got AI. I'm sure some of you will probably use it. And you'll probably get laughed at. At least I hope you will. But JetBrains, like for example, JetBrains looks a little like this. You've got your Explorer. It follows a similar system. They basically just copied Visual Studio and then changed the UX around a little bit. But it has a building menu. It's got a couple of different things. It offers a little bit more control over your stuff, and you can also monitor your resources better. But at the end of the day, it just depends on what you like. I like VS Code, so that's what I use. Anyway, you'll go back to a page like this. So you want to open your terminal again, because when you shift into a different folder, it won't keep your terminal open. And you'll have something like this. You should see whatever your computer is named, whatever it should be your user at your computer. And then I don't remember what Ming W64 is. I'm pretty sure that's just a terminal for it. And it'll tell you what your folder looks like. Errors are going to always be part of the workflow. If enough people care, I'll do an example of how to do it with Rider. If enough people care, I will just load Rider up right now and show you how it works. Like I said, though, I primarily use C++, so Rider's just one of those things where it's like, that's too much effort for me to put in, especially since I don't have Rider on my Linux laptop. So I use Visual Studio Code on it because I have to program shit on the fly. So I didn't bother to do it because it's like one of those situations where there's not really a reason for me to install it when I already had Visual Studio. Well, I suppose I could. I just don't care. again, Richard, it's one of those cases where it's like it's too much effort for me to bother going to do it when I already have something that works and I already know the kinks in the machine. Anyway, you're gonna want to run a command like this, which is git clone, and you're gonna paste that link. Now, I'm not gonna execute this because if I did, I would get a bunch of unnecessary baloney. So what I'm instead gonna do is I'm gonna delete the entirety of Goob Station because I don't have any open branches on it. I don't think I do, and if I do, I don't really care. Oh, I did. I had the fax machine branch on it. Anyway, we'll use an example here. We'll use Goob's example because I can just clone this. Yeah, I've got 4 branches. Yeah, I've got fax buttons. I gotta do that at some day. I gotta actually finish it. Oh, look, I'm 28 commits behind. Y'all say finally Goop Station is dead, but like if that happened, we would run into a lot of issues. I don't think this likes me. I love when Windows is like, I require permissions from myself to do this. All right, there we go. Goob is dead. Anyway. You say that as if there's not already myself, which is one of the maintainers, actively here. Anyway, you'll notice that Goob is gone now. We're going to do the same thing that I just did, and you're going to click Git Clone, and you're going to clone it. This is going to clone all the files in here. It's going to take a second. Even if you have really fast internet, it'll take a second because it's downloading everything from GitHub. And you're getting all of that. I'm not going to show you how to use Git Credential Manager, by the way. You're just going to have to look up a video. So while this is receiving this, you can go and watch a handy dandy video of managing Git and GitHub credentials or something like that. Here, how about we do this? How to use Git. I'm going to find you a video. This is a really good video. I suggest watching this video. This is basic understanding of Git Bash and GitHub. Absolutely great. Kevin Stradvert is very good at explaining how Git works. And he even gives you an example project for you to try and follow along with what he's doing. And he shows you how Git works. So if you don't have an understanding of Git or what GitHub is, you should go and check it out. It just allows you to, it's a good follow through for how it works. And Jesus Christ, dude. I have insane download speed, and it does not want to download. Like, look at my peak download on Steam. 516 megabits per second. This is what Windows does to you. This is what Microsoft does to you. Artificially limiting my download speed. And this is megabits or megabytes. Wait, Steam might just be in a different. Yeah, Steam is in megabytes. Still, not much of a difference. I don't know. It's Git. It's GitHub or it's Git. Stop dogging on Git. Git's pretty chill. I probably should have paused my recording. Like, this is gonna eat up so much space, bro. Look at this. So much space here. Life is crazy. Like, I'm gonna crash at some point. It's gonna be great. Yes, I know. I don't care. Now you'll see this. It says resolving deltas. This is just checking out with everything. I'm not even gonna bother explaining to you what deltas are. You can see this. It's just how it checks all your information, stores your files. It stores a whole new copy. Blah 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 blah. Same difference. That's all it is. So once it updates all the files and it resolves all your deltas, yeah, it's just checking your changes, following along. I got mentioned in the admin chat. It's cool. I don't feel like answering. Yeah. All right. Once you get to this point, you're going to go and you're going to click Control O again. And you're going to go to your GitHub repos, and you're now going to go to your folder. The importance here is because the way Visual Studio Code works is it saves your like general setup. So if you have a certain terminal open, or you have certain controls, you're going to get a million pop-ups, by the way, because it's going to ask you for downloading extensions. Then C# is going to try to run and restore everything, and it's going to be one big cluster of a million pop-ups in the bottom right corner. And what you're going to do is you're going to ignore all of them because you don't even have .NET installed and you've not even run the game yet, so you've not built yet. So your handy little bin folder doesn't even exist. You'll notice there's a lack of a bin folder here. So it's going to keep telling you there's a million issues. And this is where you can choose to run Python, or you can choose to run git submodule update. Either way, there, you're going to do Python, and you're going to do run underscore this.py, and this is going to run git submodule, and you'll see that it says git submodule update. Like I told you, all it does is run the same command that you can run in Git. What this is doing is it's downloading the submodule, and just as a quick recap of what a submodule is, in case you don't know what it is, this is basically running all the code from a separate repository that updates on its own. And the purpose of this is Space Station 14 is built off of the submodule, robust toolbox, which runs everything, and then you build on top of it. It's like you're basically plugging in a little thing on the side that has all your code. Now, the other one you can do is you can do git submod. You can type git submodule update -- init -- recursive, and that would run and check out. This had nothing. This didn't output anything because I already ran it. But the point being that you can do either of these options. If you don't want to download Python, if you have something against Python, I don't know. You can just run the git submodule update. This was basically the fast way of getting, for like people who are mapping, they could just run and they can run Python. They don't need to pay attention to the code. They don't even have to deal with Git. They just make their changes and they shove it online. Beside the point, now that you have that, we're going to do something else. You're going to click Control Shift P, or you can click this top bar at the top and you can do a right arrow key. Now you are running your commands. Because we installed that extension earlier, the .NET install tool, you don't have to go and manually download .NET online. You don't have to go and find the version that we use. You don't have to go through the efforts of downloading something and it being potentially out of date, which you can go and download .NET 9.0 manually if you want to. I'm not going to because Visual Studio Code can do that for me. You can do .NET install tool, and you can click the one that says install the .NET SDK system-wide, and usually it just autofills, or you can just do 9.0.3.0.5 or 3.0 9.0.305. You can tell I'm a little tired. And you're just going to click enter. Now it's going to pop up here at the bottom, and it's going to make its own little output, and it's downloading the newest version. You're going to get a million pop-ups. I don't even know if you can see this one. You're going to click yes and allow it to do its stuff. And like, I'm updating it right now. I had 9.0.2, I think. I haven't updated it at all. You don't generally need to. Because Space Station 14 will tell you, hey, I can't run because your .NET's not up to date. It will tell you when your .NET isn't up to date. I'm dying to let heartburn. This is taking too long. I almost want to just click cancel on it. I am just going to click cancel on it. Anyway, you have all of that. Once that's run through, you'll have .NET installed, and you'll have your Git submodule installed. And now I can show you how the run and debug section works. Which, by the way, you can go to GitHub and holy macaroni, that's a lot. Or you can go to GitLand. I don't remember which one it is. One of them you just sign in at. You can sign into your GitHub account. I don't remember. One of them you sign in with your GitHub account. I'm already signed in though, so it doesn't really matter. Oh wait, I remember what it was. Go to settings. You just do GitHub. You show GitHub. Oh, you're right. Yep, there you go. You can sign into your GitHub in the bottom left. That's separate from Git Bash, so that's a different story there. You can still sign in with Git Bash. I think it's Git user. Or it's something there. Again, just look that up online to do your stuff there. If you're making changes through VS Code, as long as you're signed in here, you can just use this tool tree to push your changes to your fork repository, to your remote repository. But beside the point, you have run and debug. All of these have already been pre-compiled, or not pre-compiled, but pre-made, and all of these have different changes that you can keep in mind. Now, you'll notice there are some down here that might pop up. Anything under this bar is not something that's already made in this repository, so you can ignore it. You can add your own configurations if you want to, but make sure you don't do that on a branch. So what I'm going to show you now is just how you can run the basic game in your dev environment. So you'll just click server/client. What this means is that it's going to run both the server and a client on your computer. If you do not have 16 gigabytes of RAM minimum, there is a chance your computer will get really slow. And if you have under 8 gigabytes of RAM, chances are your computer's just going to crash. But we're going to run this real quick. And you'll see there's a build task in the terminal now. It's running a million things. It's compiling all the programs. You'll notice that there's a bin folder now, and it's being ignored. It's getting grayed out. That's because the .gitignore is ignoring it. You can see it filling up with a bunch of different benchmarks, client, everything, because .NET is currently compiling all these projects. This is also where you will see if you didn't install .NET correctly. .NET will just simply tell you you do not have the correct version. You'll also get to see, you'll see this waiting for pre-launch. If you click this little panel size, you get to see the millions of warnings for all of the wonderful systems that have outdated or obfuscated, or not obfuscated, but I don't remember what it is. It's something. You can just see how all of the, or obsoletes, that's what it is, and a million values that are never used. All of the charm of GubeStation, as well as Whizband. Whizband has its own fare. For the most part, you can just ignore all warnings. Sometimes a warning is necessary for you to figure out errors, but that's all debugging and stuff. You gotta learn a little bit more of the system for it. The only ones you generally should care about are errors, because the master branch should generally never have errors. You can also see the change like here. Once your server is fully up, you can click Direct Connect. You can just put in whatever username you want. You're just going to put in localhost if it's not already autofilled, because you're hosting the server on your computer, you're just connecting to it on the computer. When you click Direct Connect, it'll load you up in a random person's body and throw you in here. Evidently, my server did not compile all the way because I am not... It did. I don't know why I'm sitting on the screen. Oh, there we go. It'll put you in a random body, and you'll have all of your basic stuff. And right now, I'm a chitnid. And here is the dev environment. You get a couple of stuff over here. There's different places you can visit, so you can test stuff out. For the most part, it doesn't really matter. You'll also notice that you can see some of the debug characters, like Ian here, who is just a real mouse. I was pretty sure there was something down here at the bottom, but I guess there isn't. But you have all the basic shenanigans that you can test. This is also where you can press F5 on your keyboard, or you can press F7 to open your admin menu. Or you can even go up here to the top left and click Open Admin Menu, and click, I don't remember where the entity spawn menu is. I'm pretty sure it's in the admin bus. You can click Spawn Entities, and you can search for whatever item you're saying. So let's say I'm making changes to the Chester. You can look for the Chester, and you can spawn it in, and you can check it, and do whatever you need to. You'll also have access to all of the commands, because you're basically just the admin here. You can go down to debug, and you can click, oh yeah, I want to rejuvenate this guy, because I just blew his chest out, etc. You have access to your dev environment. This is the most fundamental part. If you get here, you've got everything set up, you're ready to go. Now is when we go to start shifting our ideas towards something else. In this case, I'll show you how you close this down properly. You don't want to quit out of the game fully. Quitting might throw errors. I'm going to show you, bam, it throws an error. Because you just quit, your client tried to close everything, it has a subscription locked in an event bus, and everything just breaks. So instead of running into that issue, what you do is you go back to Visual Studio Code, and you come up here, and you just stop your processing. When you do this, you will notice your computer's fans are going to start dialing down. It's closing all of the processes of the server. And you'll notice if you have Task Manager or Resource Monitor open, depending on whether you're Linux or Windows, that there's probably still a bunch of .NET host background processes running in the background. They will eventually close out, or you can just ignore them, or you can just manually close them. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It depends on you, on your server, etc. And you'll have this terminal. You can also close out of it. You can just delete all the terminals that aren't open. Here's where you want to start making your changes. There are two ways of doing this. I do it through Git Bash because I'm used to Git Bash. I use Git on my computer, unironically. because I use it for note taking and having different branches for my notes. For like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. Like, you know, Obsidian's pretty cool. It doesn't like Git though, but you can see a bunch of stuff right here, etc. There are two ways of making a new branch. So we're going to make a branch, and we're going to just make a small change, and we're going to push it to GitHub. And I'm going to show you how you can also open a pull request. So the first thing is you can do this down here. You can do git branch, or not git branch. I honestly don't know how to create a branch. I use checkout, but you can do git branch. This will tell you what branches you currently have on your system. You can do git branch, new branch. We're going to do that. Then you can run git branch again. You now have new _ branch. Yes, it is the YAML maxing class. I'm showing you how to set up a dev environment first, and then how to properly set up your branches. So if you do git branch and you put in a name, you'll create a new branch. If you want to do multiple branches, I think you can just make new ones. You don't, or yeah, that's a valid object. You can have that, but for the most part, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do git checkout because we want to switch to that new branch immediately. Yes, I'm doing a recording. It's going to be over an hour-long video. I'm not sorry. I'm not pausing it, and I'm talking to people, so you might have to scrim through it. I'm talking in a monologue voice, or monotone voice, so it's going to be a little annoying, but it's whatever. Anyway, you can do git checkout -b, and we're going to name this new branch. I don't know. We're going to change it clown car. So we named the new branch. This is mostly for your reference. Your branch names don't really matter. There is a system to follow. You can't have spaces in them. You can have alphanumeric number or alphanumeric characters with underscores, dashes, and spaces, or not spaces, but underscores, dashes, and I'm pretty sure you can use exclamation mark in it. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We make a new branch. So we have a new branch here. If you go over to the Git source control, you can see you have a bunch of, you have CEFG, robust toolbox, XAML, lidgren, net, robust toolbox. You don't really, or robust loader. You don't really care about any of these. You care about this top one that says OMU or Goob, or whatever server you're working on, etc. If you don't see this up here, you are not in the correct folder. Because this down here is desynced from, or this down here is not synchronized with the folder that VS Code uses. So for example, I can just do CD. I'm now in GitHub repos. That didn't change up here. My file explorer still shows me Goob Station. So whatever you do in this terminal down here is separate from everything else. You want to pay attention to what's down here. Now, I'm going to git checkout. Checkout, what checkout does is it switches your branch and it tells you like where you're at. So this says, oh, it's up to date with origin/master. I'm going to delete that branch real quick, and I'm going to show you kind of like how this, how remote works. So I'm going to do -v. This is my git remote. Upstream is the actual Goob Station repository, and origin is your fork. So in reference to this, this is the fork. This is Goob Station. This is my origin. The origin is your remote repository. That's why you use git remote. This is where you're going to send all your information to. And then upstream is Goob. Or if you're doing this for OMU, with like using the OMU one that I showed you earlier, this would be your remote and this would be your upstream. Just keep that in mind, especially when somebody refers to it and they're asking you questions. You can create a branch in VS Code at the top. You do git and create branch. or you can do create branch from. Whenever you create a branch, it should always be from master, unless you are creating a branch on a previous project you're doing. In this case, we're just going to create a branch. We're going to create the branch for Goob Station or Omu, whichever one you want. And I'm going to call this branch Clown Car. I just made a new branch. Now we're going to do git checkout to, and you'll go to Goob Station and you'll go to Clown Car, which I just made. And now we're in Clown Car. Now it's not going to show that down here in this. Yeah, you don't want to commit to master. It's not going to show that down here in this terminal because this terminal is out of date. So you can just press enter or whatever you want. Just don't run a command and it will update down here afterwards. Because when you switched branches here, you actually switched everything on your computer in here. Because this .git section here, this is what's telling you where your head's at, your descriptions of your branches, etc. Again, you don't need to really worry about it. Now let's go edit a clown car. I'm going to just search for clowncar.yml. Let's say this is in the actions section. Let's do something that's not like actions related. Whatever, I don't really care. Let's just, instead of calling this jukebox, let's call this the boombox. This shouldn't have a problem because this is just a name field. All right, we have this boombox. Now we're going to test our change because we just saved. You can keep track of all the active changes you have. You can see, you can click on it to see what you changed. I changed it from jukebox to boombox. And now we're going to test this on debug. Now, if you're making something that's really big, you should test it on release. In this case, I'm going to show you what release looks like. The release takes longer to compile because you are basically running an entire game server on your computer. You're going to see what I mean in a second. So we changed this clown car. We changed it to boombox. It tells you that it was changed to boombox. You can see this. It'll tell you what your little changes are if you click the little blue box to the left. If you make additions, it'll tell you, well, this says modified because it's deleting the... It just says modified because it's deleting stuff. That's what I know. If you add a new line or something, it'll tell you, it'll be green. If you remove like an entire action, it'll be red. In this case, this is going to just show you as full red. If I delete this, it'll show as red here. Completely, you deleted everything, etc. You don't really need to pay... What the hell? Oops, I pressed something wrong. Anyway, all of this is being made. You can see it down here. It's building release. There's a million different pop-ups that I can't get off my screen. This is the downside. You can see here it's compiling everything. It's making new projects. At the end of the day, though, like I said earlier, how you had that bin file, it's just refilling this up with new stuff. .NET's publishing for the bin. And now it's actually running the server. And this is the debug console. You can actually see how it's debugging everything, and then it's running everything. You'll see outputs of here. Let me see if I can switch this over. You can see all the C#. It's reloading all the projects. Some of this is useful information. You'll also notice that you'll have like a million problems. Like this right here. It doesn't like this because somebody didn't put a space. In your FTL file, don't forget to put a space. Whenever you make a comment, put a space after the comment. What do you mean fix master branch? If you break your master branch, you just reset head. I'll show you. I'll show what I mean. I think I get what you mean. Anyway, you'll also get a bunch of like unresolved tags. As Richard mentioned earlier, VS Code, VS Codium, they don't like this like formatting on YAML tags. I don't blame them because this formatting is stupid as well. I've never seen this in any other game. But It's just the way it is. You're gonna have a bunch of red lines sometimes, as long as, you know, everything works in the end, it works in the end. Anyway, this is release. You'll notice the front screen doesn't make much difference. But now you're about to be blasted by music, because you are now running on an actual server. You'll also notice that it says, hey, the local host at username, whatever username you had, is attempting to connect with the user ID from your username. Guess what? That's because this is an actual server. You guys could connect to this if I was port forwarding. Maybe. It might not. I don't know. I haven't tested it. But you're running on full server, so, you know, maybe you want to force map so you can test something. You probably want to force preset the sandbox. This is going to start the game. Your options should not be just 5 things. Did you run submodule update? And did you fork from Goob or Omu?
Welcome to the station, crew. Enjoy your stay.
I hate IntelliJ. Oh, Den might not have other stuff. So the difference here is, you see this .vs Code folder? There's a launch.json, and this has been modified by upstream to add a bunch of different options that you can choose. So unfortunately for your case, you probably don't have those options, because you'll notice that this has only ever been changed. If Den pulls from Einstein at some point, I moved these to Einstein. So I made tests on Einstein. But like that, in that case for you, you might have to do other options. That is the fault of your repository owners not updating it. That just means they're probably using JetBrains or something. Because JetBrains doesn't need the different configuration options. And again, I'll probably just show you how to use Rider if you want. It's not hard to learn. You'll notice that everything here is unlocked. This is where you click F7 and you click Time Transfer Panel, and you give yourself 1,000,000 hours if you're trying to test certain roles. If you don't have the Time Transfer Panel because you're on like something like the Den, which the Time Transfer Panel you'll notice was made by Bombaster for Goob. It's a Goob only thing that other people have taken. What command? What command are you referencing? Like, what did it do? Oh yeah, get submodule update. So here, I'll put it in the chat. It's just get submodule update dash dash init dash dash recursive. Or you can do Python Python run this.py. You can do Python or Python 3. It doesn't matter if both of them use it, as long as you install it with path. Another one you can do is playtime, add role, but this is going to take forever. I'm just going to tell you now. It's up to you, but for the most part, I just test using Assistant. In this case, I'm going to test using Clown, because we made changes to the Clown car. So I'm going to add a Clown car. And we can look over here. You can see thank the driver. Oh. Dude, how do I get out of the Clown car? Uh-oh. There might be an issue with the Clown car, guys. Let's see what happens if I delete it. I'm pretty sure it just deletes me. Yep, it does. Well, this is a great time to learn how you can respawn. It's a mystery what this place used to be. We're gonna do stations get jobs job clown or job clown jobs adjust. We're just gonna give it 1,000 rolls. There was no unbuckle alert. I think clown car is busted. Oh wait, no, this was the actual clown car. I wasn't a traitor. There we go. Yeah, there's just no buckle alert. I don't know what's doing it. I'm gonna just TP2 this chair real quick. Well, we can't see our actions. I think the clown car's broken. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Yeah, there's there seems to be something with there seems to be something wrong with the clown car. Any upstream stuff that touches it breaks it. Oh well. That's unfortunate because I was going to show you how your changes can impact the game. But normal you would see boombox instead of jukebox if this worked. So I suppose I'll just do something else. All right. I don't remember what it's called, bro. Entities, clothing, feet, or shoes, boots. Here we go. We got futuristic boots. Let's just change these to chrono boots. And we'll run this real quick. If you make a small change, not a lot needs to be changed. It's probably a Wisdom issue that you don't have it because they never added new configurations for how you can run your game. It's not that big of a deal. You can run it using .NET. I want to say it's .NET run -- project. Or no, .NET -- I don't remember. You can look up how you can run it manually in the terminal. I don't recommend doing that because you don't have control over the debug menu like you do in VS Code. You can add your own configurations if you want. That folder I showed you earlier, the VS Code folder in the launch.json, you could just copy all this and paste it into yours and run it using that. The difference here, though, is .vs Code is not ignored, so it'll try to publish to your branch. You'll have to make sure not to update it. Yeah, manually taking the configurations would be fine. The reason I suggest force mapping, by the way, to whatever you want it to be, is so you can make sure you're on whatever map. And the reason I suggest force preset is so that your game doesn't crash because you don't have enough people, or not crash, but so that your round actually starts when you don't have enough people. If it rolls like Heretic or something on Secret Classic or Secret or anything else, it won't start the round because there's one person on the server, and that person is you. So now we can see that we have futuristic boots no longer exist, but we have chrono boots because we changed them to chrono boots. Now they're called chrono boots because I changed it to chrono boots. But your changes reflect instantly. YAML does not hot reload. Depending on what you're doing. So like your prototypes here, this doesn't hot reload. You notice I changed it back to futuristic boots and I saved. There's nothing here. It's still chrono boots in the game. It's still going to show as chrono boots. But XAML, or not XAML, but XML, and XAML too, they do change. So if we go to SOP, and we go to here, we have the folders here is alert levels and emergency SOP. So some YAML does hot reload, and it's usually like guidebook. So right here, you'll see that we have our standard operating procedure. We have chain of command. We have the alert levels. I'm going to just remove the alert levels here. We're going to comment this out with Control/. We're going to save that, and we're going to open our guidebook again. These should stay the same because the guidebook entries aren't going to change. But you'll notice that this takes from sop.xml. Actually, wait a second. Release might not change because I'm in debug. I'm in release. I'm going to see real quick. I'm just going to delete. I'm just going to delete this entire top line. And we're going to save it quick. Okay, yeah, because we're running in release, it doesn't hot reload. So that was my bad there. We're going to run this in debug mode, which is just server/client by itself. You'll generally try to use debug mode when you're making small changes or whatnot. Anything that's pretty fast. What? All right, there we go. We have our debug menu opened up, so I'm going to show you how you can edit guidebooks. Sorry, 1 second. I'm there we go. So you have your dev, and we're going to open up and we're going to see the SOP. I'm going to make a change here. So we're going to just delete this top line, and you'll notice that it's currently still there. Well, if I go back to it, it quick reloads. It's now gone. That entire top section is gone. And if we go back to it again, it's all there again. Now, if we go over here, we should be able to comment out alert levels. And if I open this up again, you'll see that alert levels is no longer underneath standard operating procedure. It's now at the bottom in its own tab. So some YAML does quick reload when you're in the debug mode. And I don't believe entities do. I don't normally mess with these. So we'll have futuristic boots. We can change these to chrono boots. These shouldn't change immediately. Well, they do. Yeah, that's pretty neat. That's hey, you learn something new every day. I don't do this often. I don't normally test immediately, but some of your changes can quick reload, so you can do some quick testing while you're in debug mode, but only in debug. If you're running in tools or you're running in release, there's a bunch of different configurations that run in the background, so you can't make immediate changes. But for the most part, that's how you would change something. So let's say I wanted to delete this entire line here. Let's go ahead and close out of this. We've tested, we've seen our changes. We want to delete everything in standard operating procedure for this first thing. Whatever reason you want to do that. Close out of your other stuff. We're gonna go and we're gonna push this branch now. We're gonna stage these changes, and then we're gonna commit these. So we're gonna give a little message. Remove top line of SOP. We're going to commit those. And you're going to see your little graph is going to change colors now. You're going to see that this is where origin master is currently at, and this is where your local branch is currently at. Now we're going to want to publish our branch. You're going to want to publish to your origin. You can't publish to upstream. You don't have permissions to do that. I do, but you don't, because you guys are not maintainers. We're going to publish this to origin, and down here it's going to ask you if you want to create a pull request. Don't create a pull request through VS Code or VS Codium. You can't follow the formatting. You can't see some of the stuff. It's just not worth it. Instead, we're going to come up here. We're going to go to our little, we're going to go to Goob. You're going to see that it has had recent pushes less than a minute ago. You're going to click compare and pull request. You're going to delete all of the comments. If you don't do these, we make fun of you. I make fun of you on Omu. Let's see. Nope. I don't. Here, let me just do this. I'm gonna make fun of you. I'm gonna add this little thing to you that says didn't edit the PR comment award. And you know why? I'm gonna make this because some people just don't delete the comments, and they show up when it posts to it. I'm gonna make fun of you if you don't delete it. So anyway, you'll have this pull request section. You're gonna delete all these. You're gonna tell them what your change is, and you're gonna follow the general layout. When you're done, you're gonna click create pull request. You can see all your changes here. I'm not gonna create this pull request because I'm just showing you how to do it. But if you go back to your fork section here, you'll see that you now have 3 branches. What is up here is not always synced with what's on your computer and vice versa. So the purpose of this is that you can push these changes, and let's say you push these changes and then your computer explodes. You can now share these and take them from GitHub onto another computer. This is great if you're trying to work on something with over different computers, or you're trying to do changes, or you're trying to share changes with other people and multiple people are working on the same project. That's the purpose of Git at its core, is multiple people are working on the same thing, and you can keep track of file history, and you can push changes. That's the whole purpose of pull requests as well. I can make a change, I can go and request it in there, and then somebody can go and review it and merge it. That way we can stop merge conflicts and we can build on it. That's like the fundamentals here of Git. Like I said, that's why you probably want to watch a video like Git and GitHub tutorial by Kevin Stratford. It's a great video and it tells you some of the basics for it. Anyway, back to the purpose of that. You can see that your branch is up here, and if you want to delete your branch on origin, you can. I'm going to, because I don't need to submit that. But you'll see down here, we have this. Once you're done, you can git checkout master. This will make all your changes. You'll notice that the master has an entirely different change. That's because your master branch and your, in this case, the clown car branch, they are different. Clown car takes every single commit that master does. So we can go back to clown car real quick. It takes all of the same stuff from master and you're adding on top of it. That's the purpose of branching, is you're making changes that aren't on your master branch. Now, the reason you don't want to make changes on master is because, one, your PR will be closed if you make changes on master. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But two, it's generally bad to try to make a copy of the master branch that gets updated for master. And there's a whole bunch of information around it. But why you can just look up why you don't PR from master. And you can look at the AI overview, but I don't, because that's stupid. You don't want to. That's the purpose. Now we're going to just delete this branch because we don't need it anymore. We're done with it. We're going to save space on our computer. We're just going to delete it. Now let's say you accidentally commit something on your master branch. You mess up. oh, that's a commit there. I can't get that. Well, I can pull from origin. You would think, but my origin's up to date. I have all the commits that origin has. This is a new commit. This isn't an on origin. If you're trying to clear your master branch, you can do one of two different things. One, if you did not push to your branch, if you did not push up here, you'll notice this is not a head. You can do this command, git reset hard origin/master. Boom. It's fixed. Now let's say you did accidentally yes, basically what Twerk just said. If you update your fork, you get your latest commits from upstream. Those commits go immediately into your master branch. Any commits you had on there will cause a bunch of merge conflicts. It'll have dirty history. And on top of that, if you go to PR those to the repository and somebody merges your PR, if there was no master protection, your commits would not show up as the most recent commits. And on top of that, it would be a headache for other people in case they were editing files similar to yours. That's the whole purpose of having a PR on a different branch. All right. Now let's say you did accidentally commit these, and you committed them to your master branch here, and you synced these changes with origin. So now you have an issue up here. This is where you would control it on Git's side. But before we do that, there's a way you can rebase. And we're going to do head-1. What this means here is we're rebasing. We're doing an interactive rebase. And we're doing it from the head. The head is always the top of your commit. It's the very latest commit. And we're doing it one commit away from head, which means we're doing the most recent commit. And you can just drop this. Bam! You're done. You just fixed that. But you have an issue here. That's an issue, is that this commit is still the most recent one on master. You can fix this. You can refresh here. You'll see this is not behind upstream. You go to branches. You go to here. Actually, no, it's not going to let you delete this branch. I forgot that you can't do that up here. Oops. And once you have fixed this issue, you've rebased, you can push this, git push origin, and you can do dash force. When you do dash force, what that does is it forces the master branch to update to what you currently have on your computer. And with that, this is up to date. I fixed it. Now let's repeat that same process again. But this time we have something really bad. You made your change, and let's say this is not the most recent change. This is where you have upstream. You'll notice we still have upstream. If you don't have upstream, you can add it. By the way, you can do git remote add and name and the link. So in this case, github.com, blah, 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 whatever. You can do that, and it'll add another remote repository. But in this case, we're going to do git fetch upstream, and we're going to fetch from master on upstream. So you're going to do space master. Then you're going to do git merge master. Or, well, you're not going to do merge. You're going to do that same fancy command we did earlier, where we do reset -- hard. What hard means is that it's going to ignore, and it's going to hard reset. It's going to get rid of all the commits, and it's going to reset to the same spot. You're going to do -- hard, and you're going to do upstream/master. Bam. We're back to where currently GoobStation master is. Then you're going to run that previous command. Well, we didn't push to goob, but you would still run the git push origin force, and it would clear that issue. So basically, to recap, if you did a big oopsie whoopsie and you destroyed your master branch, you can hard reset it with what upstream has. Now, that's a different story. If you want to just reset everything, you can also just pull the plug the hard way and completely delete your repository and then fork it again. Not everybody wants to do that, because if you have a lot of branches on it, or you've been working on some stuff, or you have a history that you want to keep track of, that's not always the solution to just nuke everything and hard reset. Well, I say hard reset. I mean like hard reset. Like just remaking everything. Because as a reminder, if you do that, you have to re-download everything, and if you don't have good internet, that's not always the best option. Basically, that's the whole point. Now, I would show you JetBrains Rider, but I'm going to just show you some basics of YAML. So we're just going to pull up. Let's just pull up the basic human, which should be base.yml. Let's just go to base.yml. No, this isn't human. My bad. Sorry. We're going to find human.yml. Trying to remember. There we go. Could be mob set species. There we go. There's a million human.yml. So you see here, this is YML's basic structure. So we're declaring this as an entity. This follows ECS. I'm just going to pull up ECS versus OOP picture to kind of give you an idea of what it would be. ECS works on a system where you have different entities and they all have different components. In this game, everything is an entity. There's OOP, which is object-oriented programming, and there's ECS, which is entity component system. You'll see here that all of these components build into entities and they work differently. In object-oriented programming, you would declare a vehicle and it has all of these parts, and you would declare your owner, whether it's unpowered, it's a bike, it's powered, it's a fuel, it's public, it's a bus, etc. The reason for the separation here is it's less processing, because not everything needs to have an owner. See, the bus doesn't need to have an owner. Not everything needs to have fuel. Your bike doesn't need fuel. Not everything is going to be powered. Your bike isn't going to be powered. Perhaps your car doesn't need to be powered. The purpose of the separation is that you have entities and they all have different components. My bullet doesn't need to move, but it does need to have physics. My clown car needs to move, but I need to be able to control it, or I need to be able to be in it. Is there any confusion with this currently? You all kind of get the purpose of like entities and how they kind of work a little bit? Because like in this case, everybody here can play a human. The human is an entity. All right, there we go. Good. We get some thumbs up. That's nice to see. We're creating an entity, and this is parenting from base mob species organic. Yeah. See, you and I are on a little bit of a wavelength here, Crimson. I can understand it because like that just makes sense. Like you have different parts in it, and everything kind of builds up. It's like embedded systems. So I guess because I've already taken embedded systems classes and have worked with embedded systems, have worked on cars, it makes sense. It's got different parts in it, and everything kind of works together. But beside the point, though, this is your parent. What this means is you inherit everything from that. So we're going to go to base.yml, and we're going to find what this is referring to. So this says base species. Well, it's not in base.yml. Base mob. Oh, wait, it's base mob. Oops. Open that base. We're going to find base mob species organic. and you're going to find ID. So you want to search for the ID. This is where you're going to have to do some searching, by the way. If you're trying to find something, you can do some searching if you know where the file is. Let's say we don't know. I'm going to take a split off here before I continue down an exploring entity. I'm going to tell you how you search for stuff. In Visual Studio, you can search for stuff by clicking the search icon and searching for it with this line. But you're going to notice this is going to search for a while. This is going to take a bit because it all depends on how fast your computer can search. Let's say you're not on a good computer. You already need internet to run the dev environment because you simply can't run the dev environment without internet. It needs to be able to publish and it needs to be able to grab from API. This is where you're going to go over here to your handy dandy. You can go to your fork, or you should go to Goob Station. I'm just going to show you my fork because I don't feel like making a new. Fine, I'll do it. Let's search for base mob species organic here. Bam! I just found every iteration of base mob species organic on Goob. I have all the different files, where they're at in each file. You want to be able to search through the repository. You have to learn how to use this. If you are YAML maxing, if you are code maxing, if you are doing anything that is not creating something brand new, you want to search through this constantly. Even if you are creating something that's new, you want to use it as a resource to find stuff. Like, for example, I was telling John to use a by-ref event. He's like, what is a by-ref event? Well, if he took even half of a minute to click by-ref event, he could go and find one. That simple. There's a million of these in here. Use this to like search and see how some stuff is used. Now, obviously, there's 354 finds. You don't want to search through all that. Well, maybe I just go sprinting event. Oh, well. Let's do sprinting space event so it finds multiple stuff. Oh, we have a sprint toggle event. We can see what this is. Oh, there's entity event args. Oh, we can find stuff. Well, when you click on the file, it will even take you to where it currently is. And you can scroll through here and you can see a little bit about what it is and how it works. The point is, use this for searching to find what you need. Going back to this, I already knew that base mob species organic was in base.yml. Because I've been here before. I had to add languages to everybody. I mean, I'm the one that did this. In fact, it probably says I was the last one that did this. And there it does. It says when I added languages. So I had to learn how that worked. A lot of your understanding of this base, like most people can make changes. A lot of them feel daunted for making these changes because they can't find where they need to make the changes. Or they're not familiar with the file organization. If you just ask, or you just search, or you spend time just looking at where stuff is, you will get a good understanding of it. There are plenty of people out there that don't even touch the C# code in this game. All they do is add content with the YAML, and you can easily do that. Just look at SIG. SIG has added guns to the game, and SIG has added clothing to the game. Anybody can do it. Do not feel daunted by it. If you're going to feel daunted by anything, just feel daunted by not knowing where stuff is. But you can easily add stuff. It is simple. It just takes a little bit of an understanding. And the most daunting part of adding stuff to the game is just knowing where to add it. But the beauty of that is, at least here on Omu, if you go to add something, chances are you can easily get feedback for how to add it, where to add it, etc. And one of the perfect examples there is when SIG was adding guns to the game. Let me see if I can find one of it. Five and I told them where to add stuff at. And we sat there in the call with them and we're like, oh, you need to add it in guns and objects and weapons and etc. That's the most important thing there, is at the very least, hopefully you have a maintainer who is willing to tell you, hey, you should do this, or point you to where to go. I went off on a little tangent there. Let's go back to how these work. So this parents from base mob species organic. that means it inherits every component that this has, that base mob species has. And we search by ID because ID is the name of this component, or the name of this entity. ID is the name of this entity. Don't get confused there. Components and entities are different. Sometimes components are entities, but entities inherit components. That's going to be a little bit of a confusing thing, but you'll see what I mean later. So this is the base mob human. This is what you play as when you play a human in this game. This is what Eurus McCann is. That's why he's called Eurus McCann. For now, you're going to ignore abstract. This is a little bit something that you learn later. The point is, this is an entity, and now we have all of these components. The humans have hunger. The humans have an icon. This is what they look like when they're in the admin menu. That's basically what it means. You can just you can ignore what this means. They have thirst. They can be butchered. You can put them on a spike, on the meat spike. This is how much food you get out of them. This is their language knowledge. This is what they understand. Your entity is comprised of several components. Let's say we wanted to make guns and we wanted to change stuff. We could go to revolvers, and you can see the weapon revolver inspector, the one that the detective has, is it inherits from the base weapon revolver, and it inherits from base security contraband. The purpose of this is that it takes all of those previous components, and all this does is change the way the sprite works. Did I lose anybody with the components? Because your entity has several different components, and all of these components have their own stuff. No. All of that is fixed. You cannot speak a language and not understand it. Well, there is probably some tomfoolery with the way that would work, but I made sure there were things in place to prevent that when I added it. Or, well, I should say that that was already thought of before I added it, because I ported it. But no, you should generally not be able to speak a language and not understand it. Now, you can mess up here and accidentally do that, but if you can speak a language, the game automatically makes you understand the language, is my point. There's systems in place to prevent you from being able to do that. Beside the point, let me give you a brief understanding of how parenting works. Very brief, as in you'll have to learn a little bit more of it, but it's whatever. We're going to look at revolvers here for a second. You'll see that this has two parents. When it has multiple parents, it inherits from left to right. So here's what parenting does in general. Oops, I added a space. So you'll see that base mob species has absorbable and barotrauma, and fingerprint and blindable and temperature speed and thermal regulator and butcherable, etc. Right? You'll notice something here. Human does not have all of these because it parents from the base mob species organic. Because it parents from that, so that's its parent, and it inherits all the components from there. It has all of the same components. So humans don't have absorbable because they copy from the base mob species organic. They take that information and they have the same components as this. But you'll also notice this has butcherable and human has butcherable as well. That means that human is overriding butcherable. It's changing the values on butcherable. So it changes what these values are, and it says, hey, you're getting human meat with 5. The purpose of parenting is you can copy, it's basically copying the original and then making your own changes. This is very important because what this does is you'll notice on base species, right? The very base mob, this parents, well, yeah, base mob species, this parents from everything. You'll notice that I added a, oh, that's Einstein engines. Ignore that. I'm trying to, there we go. I added language knowledge. Everything in the game has language knowledge because I put it on the base species. The purpose of parenting is so that I can make sure everybody has this. Because you have to be able to understand Calicetti Basic or you have universal language. Right? So the purpose of it is if you want to try to use parenting as much as possible when you're making changes, which is why the revolver, the inspector revolver that the detective has, just parents from the revolver. And I keep saying parenting from, but it just inherits. Think of it like that. The purpose of it is because you can make a lot of quick changes very fast, and it's less stuff to look through. I don't have to have a million lines on the human saying, oh, yeah, they have absorbable component, blah, 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 and then go over to Oni and be like, oh, yeah, these guys are absorbable by changelings as well, when I can just have them inherit those from the base mob. The purpose of this is a top-down design. You want to have the least amount of code, like the least amount of writing possible, and be able to make the biggest impact with a small change. And you can overwrite. Now, when we look at base mob speed, or when we look at the revolver, you'll see that they have two parents. Well, what happens when you have multiple parents? Oh, well, yeah, I went through the pets to make sure some of the pets have it because wow, my headset turned off because I have no music playing through it. Anyway, you'll notice that sometimes there's a bunch of like copies of stuff. That's not inherently bad. Not great either, but it's sometimes you want to make sure that your component doesn't get overwritten. Anyway, beside the point, you'll notice that this has multiple parents. The way this works is the left parent creates the base, and then any parent afterwards overwrites that. So the base weapon revolver has its own components. Well, let's say base security contraband changes one of those components. Well, it'll add on all the components that it has, and then it'll make changes to whatever it needs to if it has the same one. And then you'll make all your changes here. This is why the contrabands are like super easy, because the way the contrabands work is you can just add them on, and they add their own components. So what it means is basically this diagram can look something like, I don't know, let's open Paint real quick. We have our box here, which is number 1. This is our parent. Then we have our contraband, which is number 2. So we have base weapon revolver and base security contraband. This is going to make its own stuff, and then 2 is going to make its own stuff, and it's going to be a combined effort into our revolver. But what this means is all of the components from here and all the components from here are going to be changed. So our revolver now has all of the components from 1 and all of the components from 2 with any of the changes that they have. The purpose of this is you can have multiple parents and you can make your changes as you need to. So the order matters, so you can have everything built up. And the reason that contraband in this case is second is because contraband just adds a little tag that says, yo, this is contraband. That's all it does. It's its own little component, and we don't really care. We can just add it on. Instead of adding the component to everything, we want all of the security contraband stuff to have the same description. We can just have it parent, and that will add its own component to this entity, which is this revolver. Did I lose anybody there? Any question? Oops, let's not look at that. I don't know if that has any. All right. In that case, that's a little bit of a basic understanding of YAML. You have your description and stuff for it if it pops up in the game. You have your name for what it looks like in the game. For humans, you'll see that it has its name, Eurystomcans. So if you spawn in a Eurystomcans, they'll have their name, etc. They have all their components. That's a little bit of a basic understanding of XML. So now we're going to look at some XML, or that was a basic understanding of some YML. You'll have to build off that. Here's some XML. So XML is pretty simple. This follows the same formatting in the game. So think of XML like you're writing on paper in the game. You can format it the way you want to. Well, that's the thing though. XML is not just HTML. XML is like an actual thing. It's just a markup language. It's not code, nothing like that. It's markup language. You can add your own little stuff to it. It's got its own tags, etc. Okay, yeah. I don't know if you're messing with it. I just have to make sure that, there's no misunderstanding here. You'll notice that, like this text link, this is not something you see in some XML files. Yeah, this is extensible. It's not some silly hypertext. Yeah. It's basically the same thing. Sorry to burst one. Anyway, boxes and stuff, we can add our own stuff on here. Robust Toolbox actually has a bunch of these. Yes, some species have no XML entries. This is why I'm showing you. Maybe you can one day sit there and add all the missing guidebook entries. I'm not doing it because I hate. I made all of the SOP, dude. I made the entire standard operating procedure. I made all of these files. I'm the one that did it. I spent all the time. Most of it was copying and pasting. Even then so. Dude, it took forever. I did it all over winter break. In the span of 16 hours. In a single day of 16 hours, I spent writing the SOP. It was terrible. I hate it. God awful. And you know what's even worse? This was the first big project I ever did, which means everything that I did for this project is poor. I messed up on the coding. I put all of the SOP in one file. It looks awful. I made giant things. Nobody wants to have to go through it. So, one day I will go back and I will change the naming scheme of the files. I will make them all the same. But the purpose here is, I did it and it looked bad, but it got accepted, so you can too. And then you can fix it later and you can build on it. You can learn from it. The biggest point of all of this is you might as well try, and if you fail, you're at least learning something from it. That's why I ported languages. Porting languages was miserable sometimes. I didn't know if something was working, or I ran into a problem and I was trying to fix it out. You get to have a chance and you get to learn something. Also, for the comment, maintainer look inside code needs maintaining by someone else. Maintainers is a very ambiguous term. I'm not going to go and try to fix a bunch of bugs. I don't have time for that. Not everybody has time. Maintainer is mostly that I can go and I can, look at this. I can go over here and go to pull request. We're going to refresh real quick. Oh, look, added sprites back to the end round. Okay. We can go here. Oh, this is pretty simple. I can click here and click approve. Except we're not going to do that because if I go to this file and I go to the history and I go to fix roundhead lag. Oh, look, Dirk added this and is the one that made all of this commented. Well, we're not going to do that because lo and behold, that's probably not a good idea. On top of that, not all maintainers need to be good at coding. Guess what? Wisdom has like 2 or 3 YAML maintainers. All they do is YAML. Like I said before, most of the content for this game that's not the code for the game is added by people who add it through YAML. I'm perfectly fine if all you do is add YAML. You're still a contributor. You're no different than anybody else. if you have experience with code, you're more likely to get. How the fuck do you YAML without C#? You what? Okay, the I'm gonna assume that was you joking. Yeah, C# builds the foundations for YAML, but YAML is the organization. You can add stuff to the game. C# is what makes the components, and then YAML is what's used to tie it all together. Obviously, you know, the formatting for your YAML and stuff may be based around C#, but the structure of YAML is not. That's just like the language for it. Solely doing YAML is so limiting, yes, but you can add new stuff to the game and build it around it. You can add a bunch of clothes, like all of the drip for BSO that was added through purely YAML, because all it did was inherit from the other stuff. The purpose of it is that you don't need to do C# to add to the server. If you're a mapper, you're not touching C#. You have no reason to touch C#. That would be miserable. If I had to sit there and look at Thesia and her struggling to do C# while she is one of our best mappers, that would be terrible. Well, yeah, like, we still want people to do C#, but I'm not going to sit there and try to teach you C#. That's something you have to learn on your own time. Even I have troubles with it sometimes. Mostly because this code base is just so back and forth. There's like a million different ways. Systems communicate with systems. You raise events to find them. I don't want to spend all day sitting there staring at a screen. And yeah, as a mapper, you don't even need to open VS Code or VS Codium for the most part. Though usually, you know, it's pretty good when you're trying to debug like errors on the map, because you can look at the debug console instead of having to look through a terminal that's deleting the last, or that only shows you like 200 lines. Even then, so, you know, it all depends on what you're doing and what anything else is. The point, though, is the point of all this is you can make your changes and you can stick to it. Like, let's say I want to just make a bunch of guidebook entries, and that's all I'm good at. I'll go and help somebody who's working on a project to make a bunch of guidebook entries for it. Everybody has their own niches that they want to do or the time they want to invest in this. This is an open source game. Your contributions at the end of the day are not making you any money. So devoting your entire life to it is something out of a hobby, not something out of pure interest. Not everybody needs to. Well, you can go to remove. Yeah, you can go to remove CQC. You know, I would rather keep it and just have it reworked into something that's not the ginormous, hard-coded mess that it is. But aside the point, though. Not everybody, you know, wants to. Also, you know, let's get some lo-fi music up in here. I need something playing in the background. I'm actually losing my mind right now. Oh, this is like really quiet. Dude, why is this so quiet? Whatever. I think I broke my YouTube. Whatever. Anyway. I need to wrap this up at some point, so. XML. Follows the basic structure. You can, like I said earlier, you can see it immediately update. Yeah, try to fix the disconnect string. Let's say touching robots is not fun. Yeah. I think it's because I'm streaming. My streaming is, or because I'm recording. I have my recording set to make it quiet. Like you can see here. Oh, well, that's not going to show you much. It's whatever. I'm not really worried about. There we go. Anyway. Yeah, XML. You can set up some stuff. Just look at the others. Other guidebook entries if you want to make changes to the guidebook. For the most part, all your XML is for the guidebook. Some stuff can be used in everything else, but XML is not our only stuff. We have XAML as well. I can show you. Facts window.xaml. It looks like this. This looks like craziness to somebody who has never seen this before. Your best bet is to study it and see how it works. I'm sorry to tell you this, but XAML is really annoying to use, and it's not super intuitive sometimes. once you get an understanding of it, you can kind of like understand how it all fits together. We make this giant window, we make this giant box container, and we put these individual panels together in it. And these panels share the space. This panel shares space with this next panel. And there's two separate panels in here, and they've all got their little boxes, and they have in these boxes, they have their buttons. And all of that churns out to give you what you see when you open the fax UI on the printer. It's a little crazy. The reason that messing with XAML is a little annoying is because tools for XAML exist. Like XAML.io. These exist. You can make your changes in here if you want to. I've got a giant grid. I've got Hello World. And I've got my click me right here. Let's move this. You'll see that it's editing this in real time. I have a little button called My Button and the text block that says Hello World. And this button says, oh, click me. And then on clicking it, it changes. Yeah, these exist. Well, guess what? Let's say I want to copy everything that I have. I'm going to copy this entire thing. Guess what? This doesn't work because we use our own window. You can't see this update in real time. Ah, this looks terrible. But you may think that fully. You have your XAML there. You can make your changes. You can see kind of how you want it to look. Unfortunately for you, we're in a video game, and our video game doesn't use resources like that all the time. Here's the difference, though. Let's start up a server client, and I'll show you how this updates in real time. If you're running this in debug mode, you can make changes. You can edit XML while you're in game. XML and YAML can hot reload, not all the time. Keep that in mind. It doesn't always hot reload. But if it is, you can see some of the changes. Now, changing the components to go into something that's a bit different. But if you're changing like the names or the description or how something looks, those can hot reload. Your best bet is if it doesn't seem to be updating, always restart the server fully. And I mean like fully stopping it and then fully starting it again. What all was I going to cover in this, by the way? I think it was just the YAML maxing and stuff. Yeah, and components and ECS works. By the way, Twerk, you were one of the ones that wanted to learn a little bit about ECS. Is there any questions you have for ECS? Or did I kind of cover like the basics of it? Because I do have a video that's pretty cool that you might like. Inheritance versus oriented versus classes. Video versus classes, game design. It's on game design. Let's see if I. We're just gonna. So this is an example here, which I just realized. This shows up. What in the world is going on? Oh, I forgot to turn something off. Okay, that's a little annoying. Oh well, whatever. This shows up. My recording might be a little fucked because I left SS14 turned on, so it appeared over the top of everything. Okay, so you have all of this here, and let's go in. We're just going to spawn a printer. Sorry, we're going to spawn a fax machine. We don't have printers in this game, even though they print. All right, I can see from to plain paper. All right, let's change what this says down here. We're just going to change the name of this. This is lock fax machine button normal. This means it's finding localization for the FTL that says fax dash machine dash that. Okay. This is our bottom two buttons. So this is open left and this is open right. This is open left and this is open right. These buttons look like this, and this says plain paper. Well, we're going to change this from plain paper. We're just going to change this to print paper. Let's save this. We're going to close out of this because we already had a cache, and we're going to open it again. Now it says print paper. Okay, let's say we want to make this, or let's say we want to make this. This is a left, top, right, bottom. So that's how the box container works. We're going to make this 10 off the top. You'll notice not much here changed. Because I was changing the box container inside of the panel. Well, the panel has its own set side, and the box didn't have anything above it, so it put 10 above it. It made it slightly bigger. We're going to change this to 4 now. Now it's slightly smaller. This little gray area is changing, so let's make it 50. I'm going to show you what I mean by this. Now we have a giant space here. You can see your changes update in real time. You can move them around. That doesn't mean, however, that the buttons have a different purpose. Now I changed it from plain paper to office paper. You'll notice it changed back to plain paper because they have C# code that changes it and tells you how it works. Right? You know what I'm saying? You're making your changes, but sometimes your code might overwrite those changes. Now, even though I had it change the text print paper, it changed because the code forces it to change. We can see that if we go to effects, window.xaml.cs. This is the naming convention, by the way. So if you make any changes in XAML, you have to make your changes here. So let's find. Let's just find, what is this called? This is called paper button. All right, we set on paper button press. If it's office paper, it changes the text on the button to this. If it's else, it changes the text to this. That's why it's changing, by the way, just so you, in case you were wondering. Now, obviously, we don't want to save any of these changes we make, so we're gonna hold down our undo button so we're not messing up our master because we're on something else. But the point there is you can see XAML update in real time. Now, let's look at some communications for events. This is zombie component and share. I need zombie component on server. All right, there we go. Interesting. Oh, wait, no, it's zombie system. That's what I'm looking for. Zombie system and component. All right. So, yeah, the code makes the changes. Now, when you're changing the XAML, you can see your changes in real time. You just have to reload it. Yeah. Oh yeah, that is a good point. When you make YAML changes, run YAML enter on your own system. You should, if you think it's good, you should push it to the PR because it's free processing on GitHub. The repository is public. Let the YAML enter on GitHub work. But you can also find it easier if you run YAML enter on your own computer. If you change a sprite, I'm not joking when I say this. I've said this to other people. If you change a sprite, you should always run your YAML enter after you delete everything in bin. Just delete everything here. This is bin. Your bin is made anytime you run the project. If you make changes to a sprite that already exists, or you change a prototype and you change the location of the sprite, delete everything in bin and then run YAML enter. The reason why is if you make some changes, your bin will not update the prototype where the changes go sometimes. So what's compiled may not update because the game is like, oh, there already exists a sprite. The only difference here is the path. And then it'll throw errors when your game's running because it can't find the path. And the YAML enter throws errors because it uses a different build than your actual full game. The reason I mention this is we've had to force push updates on the server, or not on the server. We had to force push updates to our master branch through a PR. We had to approve, even though it had YAML enter failures, because Diggy changed the sprite location and then updated it in the code, but the workflow for YAML enter does not automatically update Git. It doesn't delete the bin and recompile the bin because it's supposed to be like a really fast YAML enter. So you run into issues where it doesn't have something that was already there. The point here is that clear out your bin when you run your YAML linter if you think that there's a problem that's with the code base and it's not something with what you did. Because if it has old stuff in there, the old stuff is going to show up and it's not going to like it. That's the main point. Now, to just briefly cover like events, because I'm not a master of all this, but I have done these. In fact, I'm the one that did these. In an ECS system, your systems have to communicate, right? They do that through events. If they're not running within each other and they're not constantly calling each other or working based off of each other, they use events for communications. So here's how I did the events for the communications when you turn into a zombie. You would subscribe to a local event. In the first half, you're declaring what component it's based off. In this case, it's based off of my zombie component. And then this is based off of the event that gets triggered that it's looking for. So on the zombie component, when this event triggers, on the zombie component, when the component is deleted, shut down, erased, etc., anything that would mean that it's getting deleted, it will run this function. In this case, it's on language apply because I followed the same structure as other stuff. Now we're going to run this, and we have the component. So we have our zombie component, and we have our reference for our event and the arguments that come out of the event. When I do this, I clear all the languages, and then I add back their previous languages, etc., and we go from there. The way that systems communicate for sharing information is through events, if they're not outright running. One of the examples to give is that if we go to chatsystem.cs and this is client, sorry, chatsystem.cs, and we're looking in server. This is a bunch of bonanzas. Sometime, and here's how like an event is called. When you're doing an event, you have a sender and a receiver. In this case, the zombie system is the receiver. So it's listening for events. It's listening for this entity languages event on the zombie component in the zombie system. The zombie system is like the general structure for how the zombies work. This is zombies on the server side. So the client never sees any of this information. So the server, because I don't want the client to be able to change what languages they get when they turn into a zombie, right? So all these changes are on the server side. Now, of course, there is a shared zombie system, but I'm going to get into client server shared in a bit, and then I'm going to be done with it by then. Anyway, this is the receiver, so this is listening for it on here. That's why when zombie system is initialized, it's listening for these events, meaning that it's just checking to see if they get called. Now, in this case, this is an entirely separate system. This is a chat system. Well, we want to change the speaker name event. This is in the entity whisper, and this is while you're whispering. And this is what changes your name based off of your identity. So this is what happens when you whisper and somebody can't hear what you're saying because you're too far away. This changes the speaker name event. So it runs a new event. It turns this event on, this transform speaker name event. Then it raises the event, which means it sends it out. And then any system that receives the name is going to receive it. Then the name that the message is sending, so what you see when you send the message, or what another person is going to see when you whisper and they can't hear you and they can't see you, so they don't get your name. This changes the name to this event and the voice name that comes from this event. So we have the transform speaker name event, etc. The purpose of this is, this example specifically is that this is creating an event and sending it out, and then whatever system controls this event or is listening for this event is going to receive it, and it's going to change the name based off of whatever code it is. So the example here is when you get zombified, right? when you get zombified, so on component startup, it runs on startup. So when this component gets added to you, what component startup means is whenever the component is first turned on. So when you add it to a person, it runs this function. And on startup runs down here. So here's what I added. When this component turns on, if you don't have your emote sounds, or it's deleting or something like that. This is basic stuff that it already exists. I added terminating or deleted to prevent it from causing issues. So like if it's being terminated or it's being deleted, it returns before running all the function. So what I do here is I ensure that you have a language speaker component when the zombie effect gets added. So the purpose of this is this event is added for when you get the zombie stuff. All right. So then it checks if the language is not null or empty. So it makes sure that the forced language on the zombie component exists, which we can pull up the zombie component real quick just for you to understand a little bit about the component. All your components have data fields. These are all supposed to be data fields, but sometimes they're not. And all of this is stupid, but beside the point. You have a data field, and this is the forced language. And currently, I made it Xeno because I don't have a zombie language, and I didn't feel like adding one. So what this is looking for is if this is, for some reason, this is empty. It prevents it from adding it if it's already empty. Then we change the current language to that, and then we update our entity languages. So we're changing the current language. Whenever you get the zombie component, it forces you to speak Xeno. All right? Then, whenever you go to speak, it determines your entity language event. So we can find the determine entity languages event. All right? This is raised, like the communication between the systems here, this is raised in order to determine the list of languages that the entity can speak and understand at the given moment. Yeah, Xenos and zombies could talk, but here's the thing about it. Xenos and zombies should never be spawned at the same time, preferably. So, they shouldn't be able... No, wait. The Xenos that were added have a different language. They have a different Xeno language. Somebody added a new language for them, I think. Anyway. This is the event. What this event has is it has a struct, and it has a hash set, and it has its own determine entity languages event. Yeah, zombies stole Xenos. Xenos can understand Tau, though. Yeah, I don't know why they can understand Tau, SETI. It makes no sense, but whoever added him did it, and I wasn't there to see it added, so it's whatever. Anyway, this event is raised. So what this means is it's listening. While the zombie component exists, it's constantly listening for this event. So when you go to speak, and this event is triggered, so it goes to determine what languages you have, it changes your languages. This is a bit of a communication. So it's listening for an event. The event is raised when you go to speak. And if you want to see where all the language or where all this event is raised at, right? We can go and guys, look, I'm recalling to something I said earlier. We can actually see where this event is called. It's only mentioned 8 times. Well, we know it's not this folder because this is where it exists. This is the blob. The blob uses the same event. So does the translator, so does the blob, so does the translator, so does the language system. Oh, wait, we see that it's making a variable event is new event. So anytime it goes to update your languages, it always raises this event to see what languages you have. Because the language system raises the event and zombie is a listener, the languages system is raising this event, and then it's trying to check for a language knowledge. And then for every spoken language in this knowledge that it gets out of this language component, it's going to update it. But this right here, all this right here, this doesn't matter to us because we're only focusing on the event. This event is made, then this event is raised. This means it sends out the signal. So language system is sending out this event to communicate with another system. Our zombie system is listening for this event when it's triggered, right? Up here. Then it comes to here, and we go to on language apply. Then what this does is it says, hey, the arguments for this event, we're clearing everything in the event, and we're going to add our own spoken language and our own understood language. And we're forcing you to only be able to understand and speak Xenos, right? Because it's receiving the event. Then, because that event has been modified by the zombie system, right? Then we come back to, let's stay on the zombie system. We can so understand this. Then this goes, hey, the spoken languages, we're clearing all the spoken languages and we're clearing all of the understood languages. That's what the language system's doing. And then it's updating all of your languages with whatever the event returns. Because this event is returning only Xeno, it's updating the Xeno and it's updating the languages. See how that communication is? Let's open MS Paint again, because I honestly have no other way of understanding this. We have this system right here, and we have this system right here. This sends out an event. This processes the event. And then it sends the information back. That's basically how it's working. Now you should be able to actually see this. How do events work with systems, ECS? All it is it's hierarchical code sequence. Like you're just sending out information and then receiving it, doing its own stuff, and sending back. It's a communication pathway. But the reason it's better than object-oriented is because in a giant system like this, if we didn't have these individual systems that communicated through components and stuff, that would mean any single time you talk, it goes to defer all of that, check if you're a zombie, check if you're a blob, all of that processing at the same time. Whereas in this, it only checks if you're a zombie, if you have the zombie component. So does that kind of give you an idea, Twerk, of like ECS? Because honestly, I still don't have that much experience, and I may be wrong on some of this. I'm pretty sure I'm not here though, but that's about as much as I can give you, because a lot of it's just you have to fiddle fart around with it, try to learn it. I can tell you like the different events, stuff like that. I can mention. Let me scroll up. I can mention some of these. Let me do something. Yeah, there we go. Here's some ideas of like, here's some armor examine events. These are by reference events, and then there's a cancelable event, stuff like that. All of it comes in due time, and people can tell you what you should do and what's better. But at the end of the day, it really just, and you got to learn the system. You got to try new things. You're going to write shit code. At the end of the day, people are going to call it shit code. It's not your job to care. You're not doing this as a profession. If what works works, then you can test it out and you can try it. Somebody can suggest to you a better way to do it. Then you build off of it. You learn from it. You may have a little bit of toxicity in Ivory Tower, and people will be like, oh yeah, that's just stupid. You hard-coded this. But at the end of the day, if they're telling you how to fix it, then you can take some of that into perspective. But, like I said, for everybody here and anybody that listens to this, if you're having fun and you're learning how to do it and you're liking the changes and you like doing it, then keep doing it. But don't ever feel pressured to feel like you have to, because you're not getting paid to do it. And I just say that because I've had my own bits of run-ins where somebody will shit on me for something that I changed. But the difference is, at least in my case, I get to sit there and I can come all the way over here. Let's go to Goob Station real quick so we can go all the way back. I get to come here and I get to go author Cerberus Wolfie. And I get to go to closed. And I have 1, 2. I have 2 PRs that were closed, and they were closed by me. Everything else was merged, so. Sorry, that's just a bit of a flex. I don't care what somebody says, because I've done stuff. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. It's not a great way of thinking about it. But the purpose is that I've learned a lot doing that. Like I said, though, like there's a lot that I've learned doing this. I've gotten to check stuff out. I fixed a bunch of stuff, made a little bit of some changes, prevented burgering, added languages to the game, or added languages to our branch. Basic thing like that. You get to learn the more you do and the more you enjoy. Now, of course, I don't have as much time nowadays to keep doing stuff like that, but like that's a decent mentality. You should start caring. You should only really care about somebody's like overt opinions to your core if you were getting paid for it. But the most important part here is a lot of people can, you know, say their thoughts and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if they're not contributing, you don't need to care. If they're like, if Delta Nettis got on your PR and told you something to change, chances are you should probably change it because he's been around a lot. He's been a maintainer a lot. He's a maintainer for Delta V. He adds a bunch of content. That's something you should care about. If it's somebody who's telling you what you should do and they've never touched this code base, then don't listen to them. If it's a maintainer telling you something to change, then you should change it because chances are that maintainer knows what they're talking about. Yeah. Delta is 50% shit talking you or 50% telling you something important. And even then, when he's shit talking you, he's usually telling you something you should change. They are not the Glacier maintainer. There's no fucking chance Delta Nettis is a mapper. He does not touch that. I refuse to believe that. There's no Delta Nettis is on Delta V. Like he's a maintainer on Delta V. So Eric was just Crimson was just mentioning that they're a maintainer and Glacier is on Delta V and Glacier sucks. I don't know what website he has and I don't care. I'm not paid to pay attention to that. Anyway, JetBrains. I can tell you some of the basics about Rider, but I can't tell you a lot. But I'll briefly cover it real quick just to show you some of the basics that you can do. Some of the stuff that I know. I don't use it a lot, but I've used it before. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to see. It's almost installed. And you'll even notice that I've never had JetBrains before because JetBrains, if my thing will refresh here in a second. JetBrains doesn't have another component. I keep all my application installers online. You're never catching me lacking, brother. If my computer breaks, I can install all this shit again. Ignore NordVPN or ignore Norton. I don't use Norton. I'm not Git. I'm sorry. I realize that I'm recording, so I probably shouldn't say stuff like that. But whatever. I'm just gonna. Yes, MATLAB is on here. I have to use fucking MATLAB. I don't have it installed anymore. Yeah, I don't need a bin folder install. I don't need a host service. Yeah, sure. I don't even remember what this is. What is JetBrains ETW service? What even is this? Nope, no thank you. I saw kernel, that's all I need to do. Sure. Yeah, we can look at this installing like a million things. Look at all these .jar files, bro. That's the thing, though. You're trying to check if something already exists, right? So you're trying to check if something has a component, right? There's stuff that exists that checks for what the hell? There we go. That checks for that. One of the things here is all you have to do is try comp. There's a 1.4K references to it. How does it work? It tries comp. So let's look at the PII system. On use in hand, whenever you use the PII in your hand, it sees if the PII has a mined container in it, or if the mined does not have a mined. If it is, it returns. You know what that means? You can try to see if something has a component. There's stuff that already exists for that. You don't need to fret about it because you can see if something already has a component. Oh no, what happened here? Oh, I uninstalled Opera GX. Oh fuck, I'm missing a something to put there. That sucks. I need to figure out something to fill that hole. Oh wait, here. What? How the fuck is this even still here? I'm not editing this video at all, despite having DaVinci Resolve. You can use hascomp or you can use trycomp. It's whatever you want. Trycomp is checking if that component exists. Has component is checking if it exists there. Get component will add it, etc. Like I said, when you go to add it, we can check it and see if your code's good. And holy crap, I had a lot of stuff to do today, and I didn't even set up our Patreon. But you know what? Who cares? I wasn't expecting this to take almost 3 hours now. But I hope you guys enjoyed it and at least learned something from it. Or at the very least, you have a bit of a better idea. And you use ensure comp when you are adding the component. Because how ensure comp works is that it checks if it exists. If it does not exist, it adds it. The reason for that is if you try to add a component to an entity that already has a component, it will throw an error because you can't have two of the same component. That would mean everything is doubled, everything that's touching them is doubled, and that would quite literally probably break the game. That's why there's protections against it. You can't add duplicate components. The server will prevent it from happening. It's supposed to. You know. Probably not always. Oh yeah, I needed to do something. Revo uninstaller. It still isn't done scanning. There we go. I don't have Roblox. I don't know why this still exists here. It means I can... Bam. Bam. Oh. Oop. There we go. Nice. Now my desktop is yeah, Revo uninstaller my goat. Is that not the truth? All right, we have JetBrains Rider. Let's see what all it does when it turns on. I've already agreed to your user agreement before, so I can't do that. I'm not sending anonymous data. Sure. Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, we're not doing that. You use shortcuts from JetRider. Shift for search is great. Is that supposed to be something else? All right. So you have projects here. In this case, we're gonna just open up CubeStation again since I already did that. This is looking for all the solutions. It's scanning everything. It's checking everything, etc. And it does this. You can see here. It contains all of these solutions. Obviously, you can look at all of these wonderful ones, and you'll notice there's a spinning image here. There's Robust Toolbox. There's Robust Toolbox. There's a million of these from Robust. We don't care. We're doing Space Station 14. You are not touching Robust Toolbox. If you're doing that, you're contributing to Robust Toolbox, not to Goob or Omu or anything else you do. This is going to ask if you trust and open it. Obviously, you do trust it. You're going to go into full screen. You have this giant README. We don't care. Get this AI garbage slop out of my face. We don't care about any of this. Now, this is loading all our projects. You'll come up here. You'll notice there's a Goob content server and client. You'll see this build button. You'll see this drop-down arrow. This drop-down arrow is how you change your configuration. Now, you'll notice it's all grayed out because my game has not, because JetBrains has not finished processing everything. So I'm going to let it process while it sits here and runs my server up like crazy because it's probably doing something and I don't know what it's doing. Why is .NET running in the background? That's crazy. Anyway. You have this giant solution. You have your commit changes. You can see what they have. You have your pull requests. I don't feel like logging in right now, etc. All right, we have this drop-down button. This is how you switch between release, debug, debug options, and tools. Now, what's nice about this is I can click this build button. It's going to build this in release. I put it in release. It's going to show me all of the information here, and it's telling me how it's loading all of the different bases. And it has build output over here. We can see all of our errors and warnings that are going to show. We can check our database if we had any connected. We don't. You're not going to be using that. You have your notifications. Whatever the hell it wants to do here, I don't care. There's a Python console if you're using it. I'm looking for... Here's how you control your branches at the top. You can update your project. You can commit. You can push. I don't know what this means. Branches have diverged. What the hell is this talking about? Oh, I don't care. Here's how you can check what you're looking at. This is how you push to your branch, how you create a new branch, how you check out your tags, etc. This is all your solutions. Here's how you can go to different projects if you want to. This is your Explorer, so you can see your Space Station 14, your build, all your content. And this is automatically hiding stuff. I don't even remember how to get to processing right now because it just hides stuff, which is annoying as shit. Why I don't use JetBrains, by the way. It's all dumb. We're not going to go to this. We're going to go to our file system. Your file system is just so much better to look at. So you can go and find stuff if you need to. And all of this has no index because obviously it's not actively here, etc. You probably want to use file system when you're using JetBrains. If you're trying to find stuff, you can add it to the solution if you need to, like Richard just said. Resources needs to be added. But I'm used to not having to do that, so. All right. Also, I just built this, and I remembered that I needed to run it, not build it. Which means now I've got to go and close all of this down because I've got it running in the background. Well, it is the only thing for YAML maxing. You're not putting YAML on something else, at least I hope. Holy crap. Here's how you access your terminal. So if you want to do git bash, by the way, if you want to still do what I was doing earlier, you can just use git bash here. Here's how you can look at your changes. Remove top line of SOP. You'll see that this existed. This doesn't actually exist anymore. This has been deleted, so I don't really know why this is here. But you'll also notice that something that's nice about this is you can actually see all your head is currently here, your origin is currently here, your upstream is currently here, so you can actually see the differences in your trees here. It's got a little bit more of a unique tree control. You can see all the tags. We're going to look from this from our current head. I don't know why our... I don't know why the other stuff was showing up there, but I'm not really worried about it. You have your bin. This has all the stuff that I just made. And this does not like me for some reason. That's cool. You have a little structure button. Yeah, so like I said, I don't really use this that much. I'm going to restart this real quick. JetBrains, my beloved. 30 years later, you start up. Or did I just break it? It's not even running in my resource farm. Oh no. Come on, open up. There we go. I don't care. All right, there we go. Now we have the run button. There we go. Now we can run this and release. I don't know why the run button disappeared earlier. Here's what I was trying to show you. So you can see, you can actually monitor the run here is a little bit better. There's about one of the best things I can tell about Rider, which why I can suggest it if you're going to be doing a lot of C# and stuff. You can actually monitor your server and client without having to switch through your tabs like you do on VS Code. Like in VS Code, you can still split them into different tabs, but it's a little bit of an extra process. This is going to show you a lot about what you're doing. On top of that, you can actually go over here and you can check monitoring. And you're joking. I have to whatever. Oops. Maybe ETW host did need to exist. Whoops. I guess I'll look at my kernel stuff. I don't care. Anyway, that loaded pretty fast. Obviously, it still loaded pretty fast because I didn't change anything and I built release earlier. But you can, if you have the ETW host service, you can actually see statistics about your game in real time. And you'll notice that my main character changed. That's because I deleted bin. All of your character data is in your bin folder. Anyway, you also notice clicking quit from the lobby doesn't cause issues. Clicking quit from in-game does. And then here you can click your stop button and you can still close everything down. And you'll see that all of these exited with code -1 or code 0. In this, it had errors when it closed, but it's whatever, it's sawmill errors. All in all, though, Rider's pretty straightforward. It's also pretty good. At the end of the day, it's up to whatever you want to use, whatever you're most familiar with, whatever you have fun with. You have Visual Studio Code. You have Visual Studio Codium, which is actually just called VS Codium. They're not allowed to use Visual Studio since that's trademarked. And you have JetBrains Rider. These are your three options for your IDE. Don't know what an IDE is. I don't know how you follow it along because it's literally just what we've been using this entire time. It's your dev environment. In this case, it's your integrated dev environment. Everything's all in one go. Are there any questions? Because if not, I want to go eat with my friend. Because at the end of the day, your questions can also be answered by others too. And if you run into problems with setting up your dev environment and making changes, those are pretty different. I'm always looking forward to answering your questions on the repository. I haven't had a lot of time to actually do changes on the repository, but we've got stuff we've got to change. All of that's different. We have obviously some things we got to get upstream working again, etc. But all of that's separate. Normal Visual Studio, you can use it. I'm not helping you fix problems with it. Visual Studio by itself is an insane download. It's like 10 gigabytes for all of the C# stuff and whatnot with that. And normal Visual Studio also adds a million different usings because it has automatic usings updates, and it's super bloated, and it's super just it's good for working on stuff like Unity, I suppose, because it has a lot of integrations, but it's also a really hefty program, and some of it needs licensing depending on your use cases for it, and it's just not worth it. Visual Studio Code, if you like Visual Studio, is very close to it in some ways. It's like a lightweight version. That's not a great description because obviously it's almost nothing like it in terms of the UX, but don't use Visual Studio. I just put it that way. Don't use it. Use JetBrains Rider or use VS Codium. Even Wisden suggests you don't. Like we can go setting up a dev environment. Bam. This said just Git. It suggests Python, .NET, loading, VS Codium. It has Visual Studio on here. You can use it. I don't suggest it. Now, if we also did this, setting up a development. Wisden. We go to Wisden. Setting up a development environment. They have Visual Studio as well. You know why? Because it's copied. But nobody wants to use it. JetBrains Rider is what's suggested. So is VS Codium. So is VS Code. Visual Studio is just, it's a headache. I wouldn't suggest using. That's my point. And that's coming from somebody who wrote C++ in Visual Studio for 3 years of college. Don't use it. Hell, if you're going to do, as a complete aside, if you're going to do C++ changes, do it in Linux. Because at least then you can run GNU and you can run memserv and shit like that. What was it? Not memserv, it's Zigzag? Zigzag? I don't remember. Zigzag V? Yeah. No, that's dude, I don't remember. Dude, I don't remember what's doing it. The command. Oh, dude, this is bad, bro. This is bad. Valgrind. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, running Valgrind. Hey, look at that. AI has at least some use. Anyway, yeah, this is another good video. This is obviously Godot, but the main point here is he's talking about entities, players, enemies, the separations, how inheritance works, and then he's talking about composition approach, making components. He's basically talking to you about the differences between object-oriented programming and ECS, since Godot is not like primarily it, and he's checking all the different things out. He's just telling you like the different approaches here. It's a great video. Bitlytic deserves some of their attention. That's just stuff like that. Yeah. Is there any questions now? All right, cool. I think that's pretty good.